I'm very excited to be here. I'm talking about something that I started a couple of years ago at my school and I'm very passionate about. I think it contributes to what Dr. Tucker was talking about, that we have to take a leadership role in getting kids excited about reading, doing programs like Dot Day, Make a Difference Day, Dr. Seuss Day, Read Across America. And this is taking a leadership in building a culture of literacy in your school community with one book, one school. As leaders of instruction and literacy experts and agents of change, we can help grow lifelong learners and readers in this literacy crisis. So what is one book, one school, or one school, one book, or one district, one book, or one book, two schools where you pay it forward, or it can even be a collaboration with the public library. So what it is giving everyone the same book to have a shared conversation around one book. It's giving families the book, it's giving staff members the book, it's giving every single person in the school community the same book. And it's giving them a schedule of reading out loud to their children for 15 minutes a night. And I'll show you the calendar as an example later. The results are that it really brought a lot of engagement. Kids were excited, families were excited, teachers were excited. The nice thing is that it brought our school community together, but it wasn't a big responsibility on teachers, which teachers have so much on their plates. So it was nice that this reading took place at night, and so teachers could make connections through morning meetings and through getting involved with ways that they could extend the book, but it wasn't their responsibility. It was really a family event. It also just emphasized the importance of reading aloud. I'm from a district that really values reading. I have 60 library volunteers. But we were very surprised when we started this program that reading at night just doesn't happen because it can happen, but it's not happening as much as we thought it was happening because our schedules are very intense. Kids have busy lives, parents have busy lives, and we just were surprised that it was kind of going by the wayside. So this gave an opportunity for a structure of reading out loud and hopefully building excitement for that so that it becomes a habit. And the results of this were that, yes, it gave me as the library media specialist an opportunity to take leadership in this event, but working collaboratively with reading specialists and parents and teachers and administrators. It's a win-win situation, but the biggest win is for our students. These are some helpful tips. We've been doing this for 2 years. This coming up March will be our third. We're going to launch it at Read Across America on March 2nd. The first book that we did, let me go back, was Kenny and the Dragon, which is a wonderful adventure with rich vocabulary. It's fairly short, very successful. The second book, Apple Blossom the Possum, also very successful. We had a lot of fun with it. It actually has a lot of rich themes in it. And the third for this year, we're going to have the families vote. The choices that we think we're going to come up with without telling them the titles will be from the Mixed Up Files of Mrs. Basil Frankwaller, which is the 50th anniversary, Tales of a Fourth Grade Nothing, the 30th anniversary, and a 21st century family story, The Misadventures of Family Fletcher. So the helpful tips. You just have to know that not everyone is going to love the book. And it's so funny to see that whatever book is picked, there will be people that will say, well, I really liked the book better last year. But you just have to get past that, because for the most part, it's a positive experience. We had a survey of parents to see should the program continue, and 92% said yes, it should continue. And also to support the PTA in purchasing the books. You do need creative fundraising. Our PTA pays for the books, and obviously they need to be paperback books to keep the price down, but they had a special fundraiser to help with the cost of the books. But there are ways you can share schools. You could maybe collaborate with the public library. You can also go through the publisher, let the publisher know that you're doing this event, and they will give you a discounted price. Scholastic book fairs, you can also get, or book clubs, you can get special pricing. It's very important that everyone receive the book. It has to be an equalizer. This was one of my favorite pieces of this program, is the parent education, because it's an opportunity to bring parents together and let them share their experiences in reading to the kids. Also, how to ask questions when they're reading to their children, higher level thinking. It's also a great opportunity to just promote not only the library program, but also books that they might want to read. There's an organization called One School, One Book, or readtothem.org. And they provide resources. So if you would like to get ready-made resources that you can adapt, and you can also purchase the books from them, I put some materials for their organization on the table. And another idea is just that you need to plan ahead, because this does require orchestration. It really does require a lot of people invested in it, so it takes the community. This was just an example of the reading schedule that we gave, no weekends, and we also had a committee calendar for meeting regularly to plan for the event. These are some things that we did. Just fun. We had hints leading up to the event about what the book title was going to be. We had a kickoff celebration on March 2nd where the principal ran in with the wrapped copy of the book that each person had passed prior to that event, not knowing what the title would be, and then the principal ran into the auditorium and unwrapped it in front of everybody. This year we think we're going to have a giant puzzle, and each class will bring a puzzle piece leading to the cover. It's a great opportunity for buddies. It also is great to give older students. They can ask questions to the younger students about the chapters. We have trivia questions on our morning TV show. We also promote families sending in photos of them reading the book. And then we have a closing celebration with Apple Blossom the Possum. We had a coordination with our Earth Place, where they brought in, they didn't have a possum, but they brought in other animals. And the last thing I wanted to say is that for older kids, we had an online discussion board. So they were involved in blogging about the night's chapters. And that was really interesting to see, the conversations that were going on. We also had mystery readers. And that is a huge piece. The mystery readers are staff members reading the chapters. We put them on our website protected, but then that way, if a parent doesn't get to read the chapter, the kids can listen to it on the recording and guess who's saying it, and that's been a hugely successful piece of it, very fun. And that's it. I just want to say that I hope that you will consider doing this. If you have any questions, I did forget to put my email, which is rlocke@westportps.org. I would also love to know if you take this on and how it goes. I have lots of suggestions. So thank you very much.
You know, a couple weeks ago, I had the pleasure of hearing Mr. Chip Conley speak. And some of you may know that Chip is a hospitality entrepreneur, and he's spent the last few years helping the Airbnb founders transform their startup into the world's largest hospitality brand. Chip now goes around speaking about the attributes of modern elders. And he believes that we boomers should actually be much more like you, librarians. Curious, connected, well-read, the people who not only know why, but know how. And so I must tell you, after 30 years in educational publishing, I am truly honored to be with you today. Now, I've spent decades in the trenches, developing more than 200 children's books, mostly nonfiction. The one that you may be most familiar with is Who Was Amelia Earhart? I hope that's in your library. And by the way, I know you call this the bobblehead book. That's okay with me. Now, you know, no matter how much progress or setbacks I've seen over the years, there's actually one tried and true prescription that I've seen work again and again, and I know that every one of you in this room knows what it is. If you put quality materials in the hands of a caring adult who is willing to spend time with the child, you'll get a reader. And in the next few minutes, I'd like to tell you why this old maxim deserves our new attention and describe 3 distinct projects that are coalescing around this idea. So this story begins a couple years ago when I had the good fortune to accept a fellowship at Stanford University in something called the Distinguished Careers Institute. And my only job was to use all of the resources of the university to just think. Can you imagine? That's why that look of bliss on my face it happened every single day. Now, when I was there, I aligned myself with the Center on Longevity because the fact is that the incredible advances made in the 20th century in what we call the 3 S's, sanitation, safety, and science, have actually added more than 30 years to average American life expectancy. So for the first time in human history, most people, not just a select few, but most people can count on living to old age. Now, there's lots of problems associated with an aging population, but I prefer to think of it in a more positive note. And if you really think about it, the senior population is probably the only growing natural resource on the planet. And there's a lot of us who think that it's a good idea to tap into this resource. So I worked with a team at the center to develop a report called Hidden in Plain Sight: How Intergenerational Relationships Can Transform Our Future. We do not have time this morning to go into this report, but I encourage you to go to their website and read it. It's a free PDF download. One of the most interesting aspects of the report describes how certain skills and needs of both generations actually fit together like pieces in a jigsaw puzzle. We know now that if we can pair successfully in the right way older adults with youth, it kind of sets up a virtuous circle for both of them, where older people provide the emotional support and the sense of worth that youth need, and in turn, youth provide the purpose and relevance that older people crave. So going back to my fellowship, one of the things that I was supposed to do was figure out how my skills could have greater social impact. Now, we all know that kids thrive when they engage in meaningful conversations. But if we're honest, we must say that much of our conversation with our kids kind of tends toward the practical. You know, did you get your homework done? Did you really brush your teeth? Will you please stop picking your nose? And rather than the profound, which we sometimes really need to pay attention to, which is who are your heroes? What makes a great friend? So I thought, what if there's a book that could prompt more meaningful conversations and a sharing of perspectives just by virtue of its format and the topics covered? Now, I already published a series with Arcadia Publishing, who is the largest regional local publisher in the country, and I went to them with an idea, and they were very interested. So, with Arcadia's backing, I designed 2 new kids' books. I want to tell you about one right now. You're looking at an intergenerational tool. It's called Lucky to Live in Tennessee. Now, this book actually has 41 different versions for 41 different states and regions in the country, which is convenient because, the kids in South Carolina may be more familiar with Frogmore stew, but the kids in Montana maybe want to talk about bison burgers. So allowing that customization gave me a little bit, a bigger way to have more relevance to the kids. So the Lucky to Live in series is a cross between a storybook and a memory book. And a child and an adult read it together, and then the child fills out the book. They're allowed to write and draw in the book to create their own story. Now, this turns into a personal keepsake, and obviously we're trying to get conversation going between generations. I'm going to whip through a few spreads here. We don't have much time, but I want you to get a feel of how the child is actively involved with the book. But I'd also like you to recognize that the book's designed to support those non-cognitive, emotional, social skills that we care so much about through such meaningful topics as sense of place, friendship, exploration, discovery, heroes, and you don't have to be famous to be a hero, of course, and future goals. At the end of the book, I also suggest that the parents and the kids, or the grandparents and the kids, build a time capsule, and they put this book in the time capsule. So the good news is that this premise is working. The kids love filling out their books, and parents and grandparents are naturally sharing their stories as they do so. So this series was launched in May. It's already award-winning, and we're getting some really great endorsements next month, which is important. I just want to make the point that this kind of issues-based kids book has to find some commercial success in the trade market to reward the innovative publishers who are willing to take the risk on issues-based publishing. And many of the publishers who support this conference do that, and so does Arcadia, so kudos to them. But there's more. Next, we wanted to identify a specific partner to see if this tool could be leveraged in direct educational efforts to support literacy, and it turns out that it can. I hope many of you are familiar with the Reading Partners organization. It specifically encourages volunteers to come into the school and work one-on-one with the kids with a curriculum that they've developed. Now, the South Carolina Reading Partners, I happen to be a friend of the executive director, Keisha Greenhoe, and she's finding particular success with that program with the youngest set, where more than 93% of K2 students who participate in Reading Partners mastered the foundational skills to read at grade level. And it just so happens that more than a third of the volunteers in the program are in that 50-plus age group. So how could the Lucky series add value? Well, I can help by getting the message out to volunteers that it's not only beneficial to the kids, but it's beneficial to the students as well. And since relationship building is so important, Keisha decided that she would like to embed the book into the reading curriculum. It would be the first book that the volunteers use with their kids to get to know each other, and then the book would go home with the kids to turn into their personal keepsake and hopefully generate some conversation at home as well. Now, this has been the first full week of the launch, but I'm already hearing that the pilot is working well, and the volunteers and students are happily getting to know one another. But there's more. Since this, I forgot to mention that I developed a volunteer guide for them. That's what it is. You don't have to read this on the slide, but just know that it fits in their curriculum. So, this is a great intergenerational literacy project. How can we get the word out? How can we scale up? Well, it just so happens that through the Center on Longevity, I know Encore.org has recently launched a new initiative called Gen to Gen. Have anybody in here heard of Gen to Gen yet? Well, there are bookmarks on your table that are a gift from them. I love the first sentence in their mission statement. Look at this. It's a community of people who believe that experience matters and that the goal of later life isn't trying to remain young, it's to be there for those who actually are. And their intent is to mobilize more than 1 million 50-plus volunteers in the next year to help with youth organizations. Think about your library assistance people. This is a great resource. Now, the further good news for us is that it just so happens that the focus of Gen to Gen through the end of the year happens to be Gen to Gen Reads. They've just launched a literacy campaign, and they will be highlighting partnerships such as the one I've just described, and doing a whole lot more to encourage and facilitate older adults to support literacy efforts. So there may be people waiting outside of your districts to say, what can I do? So to summarize all this, you've just heard about one effort. We're a triumvirate of partners working together for maximum impact to get the experienced adult population to come to the literacy aid of youth in a scenario that will benefit both. And it's my hope that you, the talent in this room, can ignite this flame. You are the instructional leaders, the change agents, the literacy experts, not only in your school, but in your community. So please feel free, in closing, I'll give you these URLs. First of all, if you don't know about Gen to Gen, please get involved. They have a media literacy toolkit that you can use to get the word out. There's the Reading Partners website as well. And feel free to email me. I will be working with the director of the Stanford Center on Longevity this year on a big project. We're very interested to know how we can help you. I have other resources that I can send your way. And once again, I thank you all for being the change agents that you are. Thank you.
I work at the Nashville Public Library, and I work on Limitless Libraries, which is a partnership between our public school system and our public library. There are three main components to this. One, we deliver public library materials to students and teachers at schools every day. We help invest and develop school library collections so that they can be high quality and diverse and have everything that a school library needs. And the building blocks of this really are our partnership. We work very closely with MNPS Library Services and also with all of our individual school librarians to make sure that we are supporting them in the ways that they need. Really quickly, the history. We started as a pilot in 2009. Limitless Libraries is extremely fortunate in that this is an initiative that a former mayor identified and decided was really important to leverage the public library to make sure schools have the resources they need. So because it came from the mayor, it happened. We started with a small pilot of 4 high schools and have since moved to being in all of the traditional public schools in Nashville with school delivery to grades 3 through 12 and collection development for all schools. School delivery, the first component of what we do. This is really possible because we have been able to take schools' student ID numbers and turn them also into a student's public library card number. I know a lot of districts around the country are having initiatives like this. Kids have to know their student ID numbers. A lot of them have IDs that have those student ID numbers on them. And so what we're able to do is just encourage students to use that same number they use for everything at school to go online, look at the Nashville Public Library catalog, and request materials. When they do that, the materials are picked up from all of the different branches and come to us centrally at the main library in the Limitless Libraries department. And we have a dedicated staff who check these books out to students and then sort them into the different schools, zip them up in green bags, and then the MNPS delivery team comes and picks up every single day bins and bins of materials that are getting sent out to students and teachers at school. So you can see the girl at the end with the Limitless Libraries books that have been delivered that have the labels, so librarians are able to easily make sure that the students get the books they requested. School delivery happens for students in grades 3 through 12, and we also provide school delivery for educators, and really that's any adult who works in a school building. We have custodians who use Limitless Libraries. We have a lot of counselors and instructional coaches who also use Limitless Libraries. And over the past school year, we delivered 150,000 items to students and teachers at school. So that's in addition to everything they have access to in their school library, we're really opening the doors for them to the public library as well. So we have school delivery of public library resources, but we also invest in school library collections. We know that students and teachers need access at school to the highest quality materials. So we purchase books, we purchase devices, and we purchase digital resources to help support instruction and reading in the schools. We spend about $1 million annually in the 125 school library collections that we work with. Because we've been able to invest so much money, all of the schools in Nashville now meet the state standards for the number of items that they need to have in their school library. But not only that, a lot of the schools were meeting those state standards before by keeping books long after they should have been weeded. And so now we have a high interest, high quality, current collection in all of Nashville school libraries. And we're also able, by using the public library's discounts, to save so much money and actually buy so much more. If the school system purchased all of the materials that we purchased using their discounts, it would cost them twice as much. So it would have cost $2 million for them to get what we were able to get for $1 million. So we're able to use that money wisely and actually extend how far it can go. And like I said, all of this happens because we have such a strong partnership with the public schools. We do whatever we can to support what's happening in the schools. We support some book competitions for middle and high schoolers called Battle of the Books that happen every year. We've been able to be involved in some school library renovations to make some school libraries really transform into the hub of the school and just become really beautiful spaces. We participate in community events such as career fairs and family literacy nights all across the city. And then we participate in school events and talk with teachers and students whenever we can to show our support and offer our resources. As you all know, doing great things is great, but you also need to be able to show the impact that it has. So we have all sorts of stats about what happens every year, but we're also working on measuring the impact that that has on students and teachers in a more qualitative way. So last year when we sent surveys to students, teachers, and librarians, over 80% of the students actually reported that their reading improved because they had access to library books. Over 90% of the teachers who used NPL's resources said that they enhanced their lessons in their instruction. And 82% of the librarians we surveyed said that the funding that they have received from us significantly improved their library collections. I'm not sure why 18% said that it didn't, but hopefully we can get to the bottom of that. And then finally, moving forward, Limitless Libraries has grown and evolved over the last 8 years, and it will continue to evolve to make sure that we are meeting the needs of the public school system. This program does not work without invested school librarians to help spread the word in their schools and help students with actually utilizing the program. And so we want to make sure that whatever we're doing supports school librarians and their efforts. We're looking into expanding, potentially adding school delivery for some younger students. We also are working very closely with the Nashville Literacy Collaborative, which is a group of leaders and organizations from across the city who are committed to third grade level reading for all of Nashville students. And so we're working very hard on early literacy efforts by providing digital resources and building school library collections specifically with early literacy in mind. And there are always new opportunities that come up that have been unexpected, and we'll continue to embrace those in order to make sure that school libraries and students have the best access possible. So, thank you.